measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you? Then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Neil, Surf Daddy, Eli, Len, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
How are you?
Good morning, an hour late or early, or what time is it?
It's an hour later for the people in the States because your clocks have gone forward and ours haven't yet. So we are at the normal UK time of 2 p.m. on Flat Earth Debate. However, if you're joining us from the States, it's an hour later than it was normal. Is it normally 9 o'clock in New York for Flat Earth Debate? It's 10 o'clock. I would assume.
Why, is the planet spinning faster or slower or something?
Planet? I mean, the idea of having a planet will be derived from flat Earth measurements that give us the concepts of time, and the angle measurements that we've created patterns get wrapped around us in something called the celestial sphere, so that we can project the flat plane we acquired the angles from at an equatorial minimum derived from those angles, in the case of Polaris and the equator, so that we can then project the flat Earth angle measurements and coordinate systems that are essentially a protractor wrapped around the flat plane you measured them from into being the surface of the ground that you stood on flat to measure it. So upon conversion, and in conversion, having two balls, one that's the celestial sphere measured from the angles off the flat plane you took them from, and the converted 3959 radius ball Earth, you can then put that ball Earth into motion and start suggesting that it has a consequence on the very time that's been fiddled with by the elites in the case of British summertime and daylight savings, and call it as a result of the motion that's been mathematically created from the church. You can do that, but in reality, it's just one of your governments has decided to change the time by an hour when another government in a different area has decided that they're not going to, until a later date.
Well, you think you're so smart. Actually, you're not so smart.
Actually, it's just a ball moving around the sun at a different rate.
Well, that's what's so crazy. Is that I think I've read two little headlines in news memes, that said the Earth is slowly getting slower or going faster. If we use the spin of the Earth for telling time, good grief, even if it's slowing down a little bit, our time would all be screwed up.
Okay, so time is a concept that's been derived from the movements of the lights in the sky, the sun. So we average them and then come up with a system. Now, there's been multiple different systems for time and calendars and clocks, but the one we currently use as a convention, perfectly satisfactory, but isn't governed by an idea that works outside of the convention derived from those very movements. So when you take altitude and azimuth as described on screen and get a pattern of where the sun will be and average it and then put it onto the face of a clock. That's the convention that we use after we've derived it from the measurements from a flat plane. Obviously, that goes without saying. But once you then work outside of that convention and start suggesting that time slows down, you're like, well, what you're essentially saying when you work out the convention is that what has derived the convention, that's the movement of the sun when you measure it, is moving faster or moving slower. So you're saying that you're going to speed the sun up? You're not God. You're just working outside of a convention. That's it. There's no slowing down Earth rotation, right? Earth rotation is, again, a convention that's been derived from flat Earth prerequisites and measurements that have been put into a mathematical system to better describe the initial movements measured from a flat plane. Now, the Keplerian orbital motion, specifically, is incapable of reification because it violates its base principle angle measurements from flat surfaces. Now, why do I know this? I've got to be honest. I was just about to get up and wander off, hoping this discussion would be capable of being portable. This is boring, right? I find this entire subject, now that we're at the end game as a flat earther, entering into the subject as a conspiratard that like talking about psychopathy and subliminal messaging. I'm now on the other end talking about fucking boring-ass Keplerian motion. Sorry, this is snoozeworthy, and all the people who are interested in this shit are boring. I've got to be honest. It's just boring. And I've become a subject matter expert as the road obviously meanders its way through the subject of flat Earth, from conspiracy to boring-ass Keplerian motion. Well, it's still boring. I didn't realise I'd become a subject matter in something that I had a mild fascination in. I used to own a telescope and look at the lights in the sky before flat Earth. Now I've become a boring-ass fart-sniffing expert on Keplerian motion after 12 years. Well, I mean, I'll monetise that. I encourage you all to become a Patreon. Yeah, Eric DeBay did a little shout-out and appeal in this regard about a year ago, and I became one of his Patreons as a direct consequence of that. And I encourage you, if you like what I'm putting down, that's to say, you can save yourself a lot of time if you've come across Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, or Nathan Oakley channel, or me as an individual. What's that? Earth's just measured flat and it doesn't need a defence council, which means that you don't have to defend this. You don't have to do anything for Earth to be measured flat, because it always was. And it will be today when anybody does anything with an elevation angle from Earth's flat surface, so they can navigate, chart, use a map, use a flat scale, describe a mile, describe a kilometre. All of those things were flat anyway. So you didn't need to argue with your neighbour over the fence on his lawnmower about how he says that Earth's moving around the sun and that the time's slowing down or speeding up. You didn't need to. Now, there's going to be people out there that say, what's Nathan walking away from the subject? No, I've just accurately disseminated how boring Keplerian motion is now. Flat Earth must be measured to develop that system. So I'm far from me walking away. I've just become a subject matter expert in something that's quite boring. I didn't intend to become that boring, fart-sniffing guy talking about Keplerian motion, but Earth's measured flat to achieve that. So you can go about your day without wasting any of your precious time. And your time's here limited. It's more valuable than any gold or pound notes or dollars. So don't waste your time arguing with next man about how flat it isn't. Let him go on his way, because the actual measurements of Earth's surface do not need any defence council.
No, but that's because you did not look into my measured flat destructive dichotomy, Nathan. You're running from it.
So as somebody's running away from something else, that is to say that I don't want to be involved in it, right? Let's say this person, whoever it may be, has joined us in the bar of life in reality. So we're not on the internet. And this person inserts himself into the discussion and asks me if I'm running away. What does that mean? It means, do I fear this person? Okay. So there's an element where this person's suggesting I should be in fear of what they've got to put down. Now, I'll put this into a rage-filled example to try and get my point across. Now I'm going to do it as calmly as possible. Imagine that scenario. You're in that scenario. You're at the bar. You're watching the football. Somebody comes in and says, "What, are you scared of this?" And you say, "I don't want to be around you. You seem like a deeply unpleasant person. Please go away." And they go, "No, you're running away from me being threatening." Now, this is the point that any normal person in society, being told that they should feel threatened by this golem, will break their nose and stamp on their head if it's in their capabilities to do so. To alleviate themselves of this perceived threat. Now, does this perceived threat, or this, by reaction, person getting their head stamped on, alter how flat Earth got measured? No, I mean, both parties might end up in jail. Who knows? But Earth will still be in requirement of a flat surface level and parallel eye level and elevation angles off a flat surface. That's elevation, meaning from the ground, not imaginary, used to navigate. Charted with a sea level that's also measured flat for it to be level on average in a horizontal that's perpendicular and tied axiomatically to a flat Earth surface level that we've described already 4 times. None of those things will change, but these golems have decided that they, who have absolutely nothing to do with anything that is already preordained when it comes to Earth surface level measurements, they don't have any bearing on them. But they're in front of you in the bar demanding that you're, what, should be in fear, should be running away? No, I have no bearing on this. I'm not responsible for how flat Earth is and has always been measured, and will continue to be measured regardless of whether or not this golem has decided that I owe him answers. Now, you might want to live in fear of the awful reality you've got no control over, but putting me up on a pedestal so that I can be held responsible for how flat Earth was, is, and always will be measured is your desire to have me be in a position that you desire to be in. And even if you get me there on that pedestal you've put me on, knocking me off won't mean that you get to sit on that pedestal and actually have any bearing on how Earth's measured. You don't. You never will. So what are we left with? We're left with a social scenario. That's what flat Earth's been turned into. A group. A social subject. How flat Earthers believe Earth's not a sphere and are wrong. That's a social subject. So what are we left with? We're left with some golem who doesn't fit in society, won't be enjoyed as company in reality. At the bar, nobody wants to hear your adenoidal rantings about logical syllogisms. They're just trying to watch the football or hockey or whatever it is they're doing in the sports bar. But you're stood on the table saying, "What are you doing? You're not going to run away from my question." Really? Well, you might get a group of people turn on you. You just don't realise it. At the moment, it's been deemed acceptable societally, but it doesn't take long for someone's rhetoric, mine, to permeate society when they've been told that they need to jump off tall buildings to prove gravity. Those people might feel inclined to agree with me when I say this isn't acceptable. You behaving this way, you deciding that I should feel threatened when you say words like, "You're not going to run away." Well, let's put that in a police context. So this person was telling you that you should be in fear of them and threatened by them and that you're running away from them. What, fight or flight? So flight's not working. No, okay, take it as read. Yeah, we don't want to be in your company. You can take that as I'm running away from you. So remove yourself from me. You're still here. So then getting stared at with disdain by every woman who ever lays eyes on them. Yeah? Getting stared at with disdain by every woman who ever lays eyes on them. Yeah, but that analogy doesn't fit quite so well. The analogy of how society just simply doesn't want to talk to these people and they are being told so, and their response is to say, "What are you doing, running away? What we don't want to be around you." That's correct, we don't want to be around you. That's right. Now you've decided to turn that into a threatening behaviour where, no, you don't get to run away from me. I'll create 60 more accounts so that you're stuck with me whether you like it or not. In society, you would have the ever-living piss beaten out of you. That's why you're here, because you've only got to press a little shortcut and you've made a new adenoidal account to annoy the people who've told you they don't want to be around you. Why don't they want to be around you? Because you're genuinely unpleasant people to be around. That's why you came here, right? Society didn't want to be around you, so you found yourself online in a comment section demanding a flat earther explains how a map he didn't create worked. Well, very interesting, you adenoidal little pricks. But in reality, you know what you are and what you'd be treated as if you were to do this in reality. It wouldn't last very long, and you damn well know it. So I'm going to start pointing out sociology as opposed to flat earth. If you want to bring me into the flat earth subject when it's about how social groups behave, then I'll just bring it back down to brass tacks. You talking about this orbital motion and how you just don't understand how we've got reciprocal zenith angles. You are deeply unliked in society. People hate you, in fact. Yeah? They don't want to be around you. They don't want to talk to you. You're generally bringing their day down. The girls don't want to sleep with you. It's just reality. You're not pleasant people. Now, you thought that your disdain at how a flat earther says you're wrong can be met with you telling him to jump off a tall building to prove gravity. And what are you doing? Running away from reciprocal zenith angles? What, not wanting to be around you? Yeah, let's bring it back home. Running away? That's just, we don't want to be around you. Now, me, in terms of the subject matter, I don't have to dignify you with a response, because an Earth that's flat and measured exactly that way doesn't need me to defend it. So if I convince this person, highly unlikely, that he's wrong about how flat Earth must be measured for his belief, will it change how flat Earth got measured to create the ball? No, it doesn't matter if he gets convinced. For every flat Earth convert, somebody who's come to the fact, the reality that Earth's flat, name one that made a difference. Name one. You won't. Now, if you want to say, oh, well, that's Nathan being a shill. No, it's me saving you a lot of time with a very simplistic explanation of how flat Earth must be measured and always was anyway. Once you realise that, and then also realise, more importantly, that you didn't have any bearing on it, being on your ball, or realising that the world isn't a ball and that ball was made with measurements that are flat, didn't change anything. It didn't matter which side the fence you sat. But you've been told that if we don't believe we're on a ball, the world will end. Jobs are at risk. Well, suddenly you're quite important in that equation, aren't you? Oh, I'm affecting how the world's got... No, you haven't, you adenoidal little prick. You're inconsequential to it. Now, don't get me wrong, this is being detrimental of both sides. There's flat earthers that really don't like me telling them. It don't really matter. The world's going to be flat whether they defend it or not. How many did you convert today to flat Earth? Oh, really? How much more flat can you measure an elevation angle if you've got 400 people converted? Did any of them actually measure it? They didn't. So you just wasted a good chunk of your time then? Because they weren't measuring a damn thing? And even if they did gather up, I don't know, 1,000 people to measure elevation angles of the sun, they could still turn around and say... these flat Earth measurements mean we're on a ball. You're like, yeah, let 'em. They're still flat Earth measurements, and they will be regardless of whether or not you say, because this isn't an English language subject, it's a geography subject. They say that the ball's actually been measured, that's why we've got tangential planes. Now, do they say that? All right, and how much of a bearing does the English language have on how flat we measure it? None. But by escalating the linguistic convergence of people's discussion on the subject to having a consequence to what Earth is, it's almost like you can make a consensus change reality. Now, that perception is what's used against us, and the conspiratards will bang on about it all day long. But knowing that you're being manipulated, knowing that you're kept under control, you are, won't change how flat Earth gets measured. So join me on Patreon if you like what I'm doing. If you're liking what I'm putting down and you're like, yeah, man, I can get right behind this. Earth's flat anyway. And even if I don't have the answers to some adenoidal twat who's inserted himself into my life for no reason when I haven't asked him to, even if I don't have the answers, it won't matter because he's inconsequential too. Him knowing that it's flat, like you now know it's measured flat, doesn't make any change to the Earth's surface. It doesn't make any change. But you want to be the arbiter of the consensus view. Why? Be an individual and enjoy your life. You've got a very limited time here. Thank me later. Join me on Patreon.
I equals 2.
Yeah, again, what's that? Pi equals 2. The clutch doesn't work. Ford aren't very good at tolerances. I just fit clutches for a living. I don't actually make them. Go and talk to Ford. Pi equals... Get lost. Nobody wants to talk to you. We're watching the game.
Neil and I were talking before the show started, and I was realizing that the adenoidal dweebs are also the flat earthers that are going to pilots and asking them if the earth is flat or not.
Yep.
And they're the ones that are annoying. And
That's correct.
that's why the anti-flat earthers can look at them and go, of course the pilots are going to mess with you and tell you that it's flat just to get you away from them, just to get you to go away and leave them alone while they're at the bar looking at the stewardesses.
Well, again, they've elevated an opinion of a pilot. It's like, no. The pilot's opinion or capabilities of verbalizing his understanding or belief on what Earth is utilized as with horizontal planes of reference, altitudes from sea level. Those things aren't governed by the pilot. Again, what they're doing is an appeal to authority fallacy, because in this instance, it's like Mama said that the crocodile's got all those teeth because it's angry or whatever. It's like Mama doesn't govern what the medulla oblongata functionally does. She's not an expert, and the pilot's not an expert in flat Earth measurements. He's an expert in following the plans that have been put to him in training to keep the aircraft in level flight. But he doesn't govern what level flight is. And having an opinion, level flight curves. Like, sorry, does that make sea level not parallel with flight level? No. But you can say it because now you've elevated this pilot into the same pedestal that you put me on. He's not the arbiter of what Earth gets measured as. Him utilising the measurements of a flat Earth to remain in straight and level flight is him using the principle of Earth measurement. Like me putting an elevation angle description on screen, it doesn't mean that I'm the arbiter of elevation angles, and it doesn't mean the pilot governs how straight and level flight functions. He doesn't. But it's transposing a geographical or mathematical utilisation of surface level into the English language by making it the responsibility of how a pilot verbalises it. Oh, do you think it's flat because it's flat? Oh, well, actually, no. Surface level curves, little man. You enjoy the flight. It's not our responsibility. We do not govern these things. And we've elevated ourselves to a point of importance where somebody else comes along and says, no, how dare you elevate yourself to the importance of being able to discuss and disseminate how flat Earth is. I say it isn't. You're like, say? Yeah, we used to thought that was important. Often there's people out there that think it's their due diligence to make sure you know how flat it is. But it didn't matter if, let's say, the person find any debate over the last 10 years and find the individual that's on the bull side and say, okay, let's say at the end of this discussion, this bull believer got converted. So he goes, hallelujah, the earth's flat, I understand it. Now show me 5 years, 10 years, 20 years into the future, how that person made any difference. Did they suddenly make a new map? Did they make a new time system? Did they develop a new system of elevation angle measurements? Did sea level get altered? Did flight level not be parallel? Did they do anything of any consequence? No. All of those things were all still functionally in effect while that person was finding out how flat it was. And now that they know it's flat, no jobs are going to be lost. Nothing's going to be altered. So it doesn't matter if the person that you're arguing with gets converted to the ball side. Again, another reason why I've been called a shill. And I've, in the pre-show at least, I'm probably not bold enough to do it because I'm poor in the live show, but gone bugger off then, you bunch of conspiratards. You're part of the problem. I instead will say, no, if you like what I'm putting down, this isn't a complicated argument anymore. And that's often the case with things that are true. They seem, because they've been made so, complicated. So that somebody can often take advantage of that simplicity and monetize it. Yeah? Well, we're making it simple again. It's just measured flat, regardless of your understanding of it. Therefore, I don't care if you believe me. Well, disbelieve me then. Does it change the surface level? Does it change sea level? Does it change flight level? Does it change eye level? Does it change horizontal? Does it change perpendicularity? No. So keep your ball if you want it. I understand how flat Earth got measured to produce it, having spent 10 years studying it off the back of subliminal messages and psychopathy. I thought it'd be a lot more fun. Now we're into Keplerian motion, and Huygens deriving a radial value and superimposing onto the... Oh my God, it's so boring. There's more fun to be had out of flat Earth by standing on the outside of it and looking in. Now that's going to cost me the people who are in that circle and go, how dare you look down your nose on me? Don't you know how chemtrails work? And I'm going to start laughing. Going, yeah, you're just part of the problem. Seriously, you are. Now, that will initially, now, cost me subscribers. Well, so what? I'll appeal to people who do like the simplicity of what we are putting down on Flat Earth Debate on a daily basis now. That's the Earth's measured flat, regardless of anybody's opinion on it and how they verbalise it. If you like that simplicity, join me on Patreon. Eric Debay's put out the same rhetoric about a year ago. I joined him on Patreon. Like, you're poor. You need more patronage. You've shown the cut of your jib, Eric. Yeah, I'll join you on Patreon at the absolute bare minimum number that I can put ascribable to your Patreon. And I got a free book out of it. I'm delighted. Really enjoyed it. Check out Eric Debay's book, Become a Patron, if he still offers that as a Brucey bonus for being one of his patrons. But more importantly, I'm really poor because people are deserting me currently because they don't like being called fart sniffers when they're told how inconsequential to Earth measurement they are. And they are. But that sacrifice is worth it because there will be people who come and go, well, what's this all about? Flat Earth. Let's have a listen to this guy. Oh, that's just measured flat. If you want to believe you're on a ball, you'll measure it flat. If you're utilising any Earth measurements, it's flat. You don't matter if you find out tomorrow that it's flat or now as you're listening to me that it's flat. You'll still have to pay your mortgage. You're not going to change the world because you're not having any influence over this fact that's already flat anyway, regardless of you now finding it out. It was already being dealt with that way. No jobs will be lost. Nothing will change. You finding it out just means you found it out. But because you now know that you're not consequential, unless you're planning on being a surveyor or learning how to fly a plane or creating a new map or developing a new time system, then you don't really need to worry about it. That's good. Because when next man comes along and starts telling you how consequential he is by mirroring you and putting you on a pedestal when you explain that you know how a flat Earth is measured, you'll go, well, this guy's not consequential. I don't need to waste my time explaining to you how flat it is. You don't matter. And you'll be able to parrot that rhetoric to somebody who's trying to waste your time because they think they're important too. They think they're going to make a difference because if they don't stop the onslaught of flat Earth, everyone's going to lose their jobs. And he, this Gamma Dick, is the saviour of all, is the secret king preventing the world losing jobs. No, you're not. No, you're just annoying everybody around you. Nobody likes talking about Kepler. It's boring. And that's going to be the rhetoric that they hear from now on. Nah, you were worried about us taking this subject away from you, were you? Something that you felt like you could sniff your own farts and lord it over the people in your bar that you're imagining being around. Because you're not. You're not around any of those people. Nobody likes you. Yeah? Why? Well, because you go around telling people that they're not worthy of the air that they're breathing or that their kids should be taken away or that they need to jump off tall buildings. You know who you are. You're fundamentally unlikable.
But Nathan, what are you supposed to do when they're constantly clamoring for your attention, where they send you message after message over the weekend, throughout the show, day in and day out, and you just say, can you please leave me alone? And they just won't.
I'll just rephrase that. Picture Chad. Chad's a handsome lad. And Chad says to you, what do you do, Neil, when these women, they just won't leave you alone? They're clamouring all over you. They can't get enough of you. They're always trying to get your attention and your time. And often these girls, they're not even that attractive. They want your attention, do they, Neil? Yeah, you're damn right they do.
Well, no, not for me. They want my attention because they can't get to you, Nathan. See, you're the target, right? So you must have this argument with a certain party. And if you don't have the argument, you're running and you won't sit down and reason something logical because it blows your claims that Earth is measured flat out of the water. So they think they could come through me.
I see. So Sweaty Betty's got a little list of why she'd be a really good wife, and really I should listen to how Sweaty Betty is the best possible woman in my life. And I just won't listen, therefore I'm running away from Sweaty Betty. I'm scared to hear how she's brilliant. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, but they're ignoring the fact that, you know, when we're talking about Earth, how they're using flat measurements, and sort of like what Alpha Murphy was trying to do. He wants to get around the flat measurements and focus on some anomaly that he's facing.
Yeah, well, he said, his words were, let's just take it as read that we're measuring Earth flat with these measurements I'm using in my argument, end quote, Alpha Murphy. But how do you explain how this map's working? Now, me, after he'd ignored you pointing out that he's using flat Earth measurements and him just thinking he can brush past it by saying, let's just take it as read, that we're measuring Earth flat, I step in and go, we don't want to talk to you anymore, go away. Go and find other like-minded idiots like you to tell that the flat Earth measurements you're using to make your argument can be disputed about how flat they aren't. Okay, just don't do that around us. We don't want to be around you. His response was, but you're my favourites. What kind of business plan is this where you're trying to get rid of people that we don't like, that we find annoying and boring? Like, literally, what are you talking about? You're talking about how the sun rises in a country you're not in. You're just boring. Now, you don't get it. You think I owe you my time. Well, I'm telling you, I don't want to be around you. You're fundamentally unlikable, deeply unpleasant, and just below the surface, you want to accuse us of being homosexuals. That's what he did. So you know you're not a pleasant person. You know you're lying when you tell us that you want to be our friends, when you spend endless amounts of your own time that you are wasting trying to get answers about things that I'm not the arbiter of, like GPS and maps and how the sun comes up in a different country. This idiot thinks that I'm somehow going to change the world when he argues with this shit about me. Now, in spite of the fact that, well, what do? I tell people Earth's flat, because it is. Well, let's just take it as read that it's measured flat. How do you explain? We've told you twice, go away. We don't want to be around you, we don't like you, and you're still here. What are you doing, running away? At this point, and I discussed this in the pre-show, that is where, if this scenario wasn't taking place online, it was in public. That is to say, somebody's come up to you, started harassing you about something you don't have any control over. I don't have any control over how flat Earth gets measured when you watch the sun rise. Oh, well, yes, let's take it as read that the sun's rising with a flat Earth measurement, but how do you explain this on the map? What, the map I haven't created, I have no governance over, I have no responsibility for. How do I explain? I don't. Go away. You've just accepted that Earth's flat, though, and that's the only thing I talk about in this regard. Yeah, we'll take it as read that it's flat, but how do you explain this? Are you running away from it? No, I accept that it's flat. I don't want to talk to you. I don't like you. You're an unpleasant person to be around. What are you doing running away? It's like, at this point, you'd have your head kicked in. That's what would happen, because you become threatening. You're not listening. You're not taking it as read. The warning signs have come and gone. We've said go away. We've said we don't want to be around you. We've said that you're unpleasant, that we don't want to spend time in your company, but you're insisting. What does this manifest as online? Oh, well, I'll make 60 accounts. Okay. Yeah, you have to. In reality, the consequences would be pain. Here, no, I can inflict the pain by stating, me, I'm the pain. Yeah, in the arse. That's what you are, a pain in the arse. People don't like a pain in the arse, though, do they? And you are that pain in the arse, troll. Why? Because you need me to be on a pedestal, being the arbiter of our maps work, so that you can tell me I'm wrong, because you've got access to me. Well, when you come to try and get access to the people who actually make any consequence to these things, often you're trying to get them to change the verbalization of how they describe it or define it, as opposed to how they measure it. You know, nobody's going to make any difference to how Earth gets measured. It does not need a defence council. But take that as a good thing. You didn't need to worry about it. You worrying about whether or not you were going to change the world, finding out that, oh, it was already like that. Yeah, so you didn't need to change anything. The people are like, eventually everybody will be in consensus. You're like, what? So that you think that because the ball, which isn't true, required a consensus to make it seem real, that Flat Earth needs the equivalence. Nah, Flat Earth doesn't need a consensus to agree with it. It's flat regardless of people's opinions, regardless of how they verbalise it, regardless of if they believe in it or not. It doesn't matter. The truth doesn't need a defence counsel. It is what it is. Now, you can sniff your own farts whilst pointing out that, well, your ball needs flat earth measurements. Check out this elevation angle. Check out this latitude grid. Check out this Cartesian system on your GPS. It's all flat. Ha, ha, ha. But then you've just become the thing you hate. You've become the adenoidal, snot-faced, irritating wanker at the bar that no one wants to talk to, haven't you? Now, at the moment, I'm relinquishing myself of all those flat earthers too. And it's costing me money. Like, literally, it's hurting my pocketbook. But I've got principles. Money is not my first priority and never has been for a very long time. So my priority is being true to myself and not wasting the precious little time I've got on God's flat earth. That's my priority. Now, I sincerely wish that on people who wish others well. That's to say, the good people, they deserve that enlightenment. And I'm going to provide it on a daily basis because I do make my living doing this. That doesn't mean that you are, now you know who I'm talking to, don't you, you unlikable little unfuckable golems. It doesn't mean I owe you anything. But it will mean they'll have to e-beg a bit more moving forward. You know, I do need more patronage to keep doing what I'm doing so that people can come to the subject and go, oh, right, it's not that serious. I've got no bearing on it. It's just measured flat anyway and always was. Yeah, if you're one of those people who values that information, join me on Patreon.
Yeah, I've gotten a few messages that are saying they're going to leave, they're unsubscribing, and they're going to leave the Patreon, and they will no longer support you. I'm like, really? All of this because the man's saying that it's not a big deal? It's just measured that way, so now everybody wants to pack it in and leave?
It's because they're not consequential to it. When it was in contrast, in requirement of a consensus, the whole world must understand and believe that Earth is flat for it to be flat, then they have a bearing on how many they've converted. How many people did you bring to flat Earth? Bring to the fact it was measured with a surface level anyway? It was measured with a surface level anyway. Their involvement in the discussion was irrelevant. But me pointing that out makes them less consequential. If your mission is to achieve consensus, have everybody understand how flat Earth is, and that there's been a lie that's been foisted upon them in their schools, then you're suddenly on a road that's righteous. You can justify your existence as being worthy. When I come along and go, actually, neither are true, because what's the worthiness? It's flat anyway. Yeah? I've told this story a few times. I'm arguing with my brother-in-law about how flat Earth is. This is going back 5 years. And while I'm arguing about how celestial navigation operates from a very limited understanding that I've been educated by 10th man with, my sister is nodding along. She's like, yeah. Like, why are you agreeing? She's like, well, you and I have been out on a boat holding sextants when I own boats. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that your former husband died and I kind of blocked a lot of that out of my life because it was very painful. But yes, we were, weren't we? She's like, yeah, well, that's just how it's measured. How you are describing it as flat is how it is measured. So she's not in a position to argue anymore because she's done it and paid to be trained in it. So she understood implicitly how flat Earth was at that very moment. She already knew and had prior arguments with me about how flat it wasn't, but always had been in command of the knowledge of how to measure Earth, to not die when at sea. So when it came to that bit pointing out, there was no further discussion to be had. The conversation ended there. Because what do you discuss? Well, what are you going to do? Argue with somebody who's actually measured it flat so that they don't die at sea and tell them that they're wrong? No, there's still plenty of navigators out there using GPS on its Cartesian grid. There's still people who are doing the manual version on maps that have got miles scaled that are flat and linear. The maps themselves are still flat. The charting and surveying of the world was done with respect to sea level. Sea level itself still been measured. You've got no bearing on it. Now, me telling them that they've got no bearing on it upsets them. They want to make a difference. Now, if I'm turning around and going, nah, I don't make any difference, what chance have they got?
I think it's similar to the stance you took, although different, when you took the stance with Glowbusters on what is and what isn't science. I mean, that was courageous. I mean, you stood up and you actually went against the flat earther. So now you're basically doing the same thing, but kind of in a different way. But you're actually doing the same thing, telling them it's not that important, guys. It's just measured flat. And anybody that's looking to continually argue about maps, about how this don't work on a flat earth and that don't work on a flat earth, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that I won't continue to turn a small profit and keep my mortgage paid and the lights on by pointing out that all measurements only work on a flat earth. I can give you those nice little sound bites that are concise, tidbits that you can fall back on and don't need an advanced knowledge of heliocentrism to argue. Well, there isn't an argument, is there? If you understand this principle, you don't have to argue anymore. You instantly become Neo. You can instantly stop all the bullets. The bullets, by metaphor, being arguments. No. You understanding how flat Earth is measured is inconsequential, dweeb. Go away. Well, you owe me an answer. You've just said you're a flat earther, therefore I'm allowed to troll you and tell you to jump off tall buildings. I'm allowed to suggest that your kids should be taken away. I'm in need of answers. There's a destructive dichotomy to speak for. Go. Are you running away? This person gets their teeth kicked out, don't they? If they're in a bar.
What about the person that says you don't stand by any of your claims?
None of these are claims. Is it back to making it Nathan's? So I'm claiming elevation angles? How's that a claim? Is a mile a claim? So I'm looking at my map and I've got the miles. Oh, hold on, there's a troll next to me. Explain the miles, they're not flat. Look, I've got a definition that says they curve. I'm just using a map. It's got a scale on it. What's that? You think that's my scale now and I've got to explain it? Well, if you take me away, lock me in Broadmoor, in a straitjacket, and the map's still on the table, flat, with a scale that's flat, ready to be used with distances, the flat, did removing me change any of that? It didn't. So there's not an argument, because that would involve two people discussing something in contradictory positions. But there is no contradictory positions. Everybody's in alignment. We all measure Earth flat because it's measured flat. That's not an argument. That's a statement. A statement that you, as the audience member, will hopefully join me on Patreon to support. Because that is my message. There isn't an argument. Just measured flat. For everyone. Without exception. In all circumstances. It doesn't need a defence counsel. How many Patreons do you reckon I'll gain from my little rant today? 1? 2?
They're dropping like flies. Everybody's deserting the ship. See, everybody's taking a victory lap. That's what the messages have been. It just shows dying. Nathan's going to be out of it within 6 months, as soon as his book flops.
This doesn't sound like Patreons. So again, we're talking about people who are willing to lie. I get alerts when people desert me on Patreon, as you put it. No alerts. Nobody's dropping out. That's just not true. But they want to pretend that they're of influence, not in terms of measurements, but now in terms of my patronage. No, you're not. But you can create an impression that you're leaving, right? Because that's almost as effective, right? If the consensus says that everyone's deserting, no. That's not how it works. How it works is I'm putting out one message. My message is it's not that serious. It's just measured flat. Knowing about it won't change it. Not knowing about it won't change it. Believing in a ball requires it to be so. Flat, that is, measured flat to achieve your ball faith. Those are the facts in this matter. Not those are the contentious points that we will dispute. Oh, sorry, we're going to dispute how we acquire the radius value. No. It's set in stone. You don't have to like it. What's that? Oh, well, let's take it as read that it's measured flat. That's the end of our discussion, though, isn't it? And no, I don't. I want to continue to demand you have your time wasted. Like, no, I'm not going to take that demand anymore. Well, I'm going to desert you on Patreon. You weren't a Patreon. You're a liar. But there definitely are a silent majority who do absolutely, without question, value what I'm doing. I get plenty of messages in the positive. I just never talk about them. It's always the minority that get focused on. So I'm going to praise the people that have got patrons. I shout them out on every single show. Go and listen to the beginning of any Uncut and After show, and you'll hear the list get read out. Those are the facts. People absolutely, without question, do support me, have supported me, have kept the mortgage paid for 10 years, and I absolutely adore all of them. They're what make it worthwhile, the pleasant people. And I want more of them. There'll be a silent majority that go, yeah, I like this rhetoric. It's so simple. It's not, all right, well, if I understand how the distance to horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is beyond the geometric limitation shown in this imagery with a horizon behind the oil rigs, you're like, well, that sounds quite complicated, doesn't it? Yeah, it is. What about if I said the distance is flat? That's not a contentious point. That's a statement of absolute fact. The distance in miles is flat. It's the end of the discussion. You didn't need any of the other shit that went around it, did you? Now, don't get me wrong. We need logical syllogisms to undo the cognitive bias that we had towards a ball. And that will often help people step off a ball. But their ball that they're stepping off required flat Earth measurements anyway, didn't it? And them stepping off it doesn't change anything, does it? If you get 100 million people to step off the ball that were formerly a member of the one world religion of heliocentrism, it won't change how flat the mathematics of ball faith are. They'll still be flat. If there's one ball Earth believer, he'll still need to measure a flat Earth to believe in that ball. So it doesn't matter if there's not a consensus for the ball. And the Earth measurements don't need consensus. That means they don't need you. It's just measured flat. It's not that serious. It's not for you to worry about. That's to say you don't need to explain to the next man how flat it is, because he won't make a difference either. How it's being dealt with was inconsequential to us as people. But that's liberating. Like I say, if you find that extremely concise and simple message that I will be putting forward and has been refined over the last month or so, and you like it, I like it, it's cheered me up no end. I've had an excuse to turn around and say to these unfuckable little golems who pester us constantly and constantly need our attention to get lost. Yeah, you're not worth our time. You're not having any bearing on this subject. Converting you won't change anything. Leaving you where you are won't change anything. Because there's nothing to change. He was flat anyway. If you like that, join me on Patreon. I'll continue to do it.
Well, you'll get all science is wrong, but you're right, showing that they're in a category error, because science has nothing to do with the measurements of Earth. And it's just people that are just hanging on to consensus. That's it. They like consensus. Consensus tells them on a globe, so they're going to stay there. But my question is this. So leave us alone then. I'm not coming to your show or whatever show you're involved in and leaving you messages. Why does it bother you that we choose to stay on flat Earth? Why do you must convert me? Like, what's your purpose? That's what I'm wondering about.
Like a Jehovah's Witness. I mean, we've just moaned about the flat Earth side of it, but there's still the very prevalent and definitely in greater numbers anti-flat Earth trolls that feel the exact same way. Like, I can say till I'm blue in the face that flat Earth doesn't need consensus because it's just how Earth's measured. But by contrast, the globe absolutely requires consensus. It's what it's based on. Their faith isn't based on measurements, is it? Now, we don't need a faith. We've got measurements, therefore it's not comparable. But for them, their faith is based on consensus. So everything we do is an affront to their belief. That's why they need our attention. Because they need us to believe as they believe. That's the reality of the circumstances. And they'll fight to the death to try and enforce the consensus, which we buck. That's it. Well, you're not going to change how Earth gets measured. Me being in consensus with you and agreeing with you won't change anything. Just out of interest, has Jaren moving back to the ball changed anything? I mean, what, there's one less flat earther. Okay. And what was achieved? You got the extra one on the consensus side. Earth's still measured flat though, it's not that serious. Didn't matter if he was part of either of the consensus. The one that's not needed because Earth's measured flat, or the one that is needed because Earth's definitely not ball-shaped, and the only way you can believe it is if you've got a consensus.
I posted something in Master B. It's globe Earth proof, Nathan. You should look at it. It says globe Earth proof right here.
I don't know what that means.
Somebody posted a picture, a 4-square picture of globe Earth proof.
Tell me what it is. There's an open door. This is a live show. Whoever it is that's posted that to Neil, just join the show and speak to us. We'll happily entertain your globe Earth proof that you suggest you've got. I mean, on screen now, we've got an elevation angle that creates the tangential plane designed to infer that there's a sphere Earth beneath your feet that's measured flat from within. So we understand how the globe gets created. The derivation of a radial value at an angle that's... Oh, sorry, I fell asleep for a second there, given how fucking boring this subject is.
Thing is about measurements, they have got measurements, but all the measurements are flat Earth measurements. 2 examples being Alberuni and Eratosthenes. I mean, how embarrassing is that? Now they're finding out that their globe proof, apparently, is a flat Earth measurement.
And I don't want to lord it over them. I'm saying go away. When I say keep your ball, I don't care. It's because I appreciate that we aren't in requirement of consensus. I don't need to convert the next man to believe as I believe. No. This is not based on belief. I'm not telling you it anymore because it is inconsequential whether or not you know. No, how flat it's measured, that is.
Distances aren't flat.
Yeah, they are. But again, this is some... who's making that bloody row?
Mike discipline.
Diego, can you go on mute?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Again, all this is doing, if you entertain these people, Neil, which you are, right, but it does make the point for me, so I'm not ungrateful for it, is including them in the suggestion that there's a debate. Sorry, what? Distances aren't flat. That invites you to say, yes, they are. Look at the map scale. Look how horizontal the scale is on the map for it to be applicable to the surface level with the altitudes with respect to the eye level parallel with the sea level. It is. But then you've suddenly invited them into the circle that they've decided to muscle their way into.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, get lost.
That's true.
Not flat
That's
measurements of distance. Get lost.
Yeah, that's what it is. And, okay, distances are flat. Can you leave me alone now?
No, it doesn't require that okay distances aren't flat. It's go away. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody asked you for your opinion. Your opinion is inconsequential to this. Nobody asked for it. Get lost.
No, you're on the show and you talk about it all day. What do you mean? You talk about things and then when people want to respond, you won't let them respond. I can't take it no more.
No, we won't let you talk to us because you're genuinely unlikable. Yeah, this person who's ranting at Neil, you know, that's how they sound. You won't do this, you need it. No. You're not approaching us because you're pleasant. People like to spend their time that's precious with pleasant people that they like being in the company of. You aren't that. Well, you deserve to give me answers. No. You deserve a broken mouth if you don't bugger off, because I'm telling you, go away. Are you running away? What, you saying I'm in fear? Well, then I've got absolute justification in breaking your nose. Yeah? You want to say that I'm running away from you? Well, okay. So you're now admitting that you're putting me into fear, as far as you're concerned. Okay, well then I'm justified in stamping on your head. I'm just going to alleviate myself of this fear that you've created, regardless of me telling you, go away. Right? That's metaphorical to what would happen in reality. How would these people be treated in the bar? You're having a drink, you're minding your business, suddenly some unfuckable golem comes into the circle and starts demanding answers about the clutch. Why? Because you've had a hard day at the garage and now you're trying to unwind with a beer. But they say the clutch's tolerances aren't correct, and you're like, go speak to Ford. You've already made the mistake. Now you're engaged in that person's discussion. Not go away. Go away. Not go talk to Ford. They can do what they like, can't they?
To put it in a PC way, if you go down one layer, these people that we're telling to go away, they want to talk about everything other than how the earth is measured. So why talk to them?
Yeah. There's people who are sincere that want to talk about what we talk about and will talk about it with us, not at us. And then I'm a subject matter expert. I'll talk about this all day long with you. All right, you're a pleasant person that I genuinely enjoy spending my time in the company of. Oh, yeah, of course I'll talk about flat Earth. Absolutely, I love this subject. It's wonderful. What's that? You deserve to give me answers. I say it's not a flat, linear, horizontal scale on a map. I'm not going to dignify it with, yeah, it is, because then I'm saying, oh, I'll embrace you. No, it's not. Go away. Oh, you're running away from how flat and horizontal they aren't. Second time. Go away. No, you're just scared of... Bang! Now you've got a broken face. Now you can crawl away.
All right, Nathan, just so we keep it on the show, Flat Earth Debate, can you ask a housekeeping question? I just want one housekeeping question asked.
Is there any evidence that Earth is measured anything other than flat?
Now's your chance to send your messages, dweebs. You heard it.
That's going to be the last chapter in the book. So what I describe in the book, and we did this chapter last, I think it's chapter 10 currently. The order may change, so it may not be chapter 10 if you're reading the book and going, I thought chapter 10 would be the question, any evidence that Earth is measured anything other than flat. What I do in that chapter is go right the way back to the beginning, literally to my very first hangout. So I've made my video about how the scale of the rocket ship that they said went into outer space wasn't matching the scale and size that they've reported it to be as a pre-recorded video. Now my wife and I are like, time for a hangout. Let's do it live and see who we garner as an audience. We garnered one guest, one audience member in the live chat, whose name was Robin Poe. And what Robin Poe eventually became was a guest on my first show called Flat Earth UK. And Robin Poe went through the motions of explaining how she'd measured distances as per the book that she was given to create relays to carry a signal around Ferrari, Italy. And at some point, there's a mountain in the way of one of the relays. So the 25 mile or whatever it was distance that the handbook said that she had to link up these relays with did not work. So she points her transceiver to the point source about 110 miles away and gets a perfect signal. Now, that is where she ends the discussion. My mother, who'd watched the show, said, but she didn't then go on and say, well, there's no Earth curve in the way. Now, she did later in the discussion, but she didn't tie it directly to her story about how there wasn't, that's in the negative, any curve blocking her line of sight. Now, with that story in tow, I can iterate in that question about how the Earth has no other measurements but the flat ones, with the final housekeeping question, is the Earth measured anything other than flat? How in her story she used her height off the surface level, the height of the mountain in the way of the relay, the distance in a linear format for the relays at 25 miles, and the overall distance without any blockage that's measured flat at 110 miles. And without the story, you can just say 110 miles is flat. That's it. That's the end of any discussion. No need for a story about relays. No need to describe how high off surface level, that's sea level measurements, you are to have a mountain obscure your relay. No need to describe pointing the transceiver 110 flat Earth linear horizontal miles away. You're not getting any curve blockage from. All of it becomes redundant when you understand how the story, in spite of you might say, oh, well, that's because we're seeing too far. The ionosphere's bending the signal. Whatever your excuse is, the measurements are flat. Now, they'd been flat if she'd have said that the ionosphere bent the signal. They'd have been flat if she said there's no Earth curve in the way. They're flat. It's a necessity to tell the story. Now, when you know that, like I've done in the most recent chapter we edited, you are summarising how redundant the social interaction between people discussing a lack of Earth curve becomes when you intrinsically understand how all measurements rely upon an axiomatic principle of horizontality. Those are facts. They're not discussion points. And if you're going to pretend there's a discussion to be had, both sides must accept these flat Earth prerequisites. That's it. We've come full circle. We've come from, we were taught we were on a ball, we recognised how ball-shaped it isn't, to we recognised how flat the ball-shaped measurements we said that weren't required Earth to be measured. All of which required and always utilised flat Earth prerequisites to tell the story about how we were on a ball and to tell the story of how we weren't. So we've come full circle. It only took 12 years. Again, join me on Patreon if you like this very simplistic message. Earth is measured flat for everyone, always and without exception. Well, doesn't time fly?
Just going back to that question. So just going back to your question, I asked the same question to somebody a few days ago, and they still get mixed up with there's a difference between measurements and calculations, because the answer I got was Eratosthenes was a very intelligent mathematician and he calculated Earth's circumference. And I was asking for measurements.
Yep. But again,
but the calculations have to adhere to the measurement. We said this many a time over.
I'll say the same thing again. Once that guy that you're talking about understands and appreciates how flat Earth must be measured, what difference will he make? So let's say we carry this on hypothetically to the end conclusion. The guy finds out Earth's flat and how flat Earth was measured for Eratosthenes to calculate the sphericity into existence. So he understands. He kowtows to it. He appreciates it. He gets on bended knee and thanks Wandek for explaining how flat Earth must be measured for his belief in a ball. Then what? To what avail? To what conclusion? To what benefit to humanity? Well, none. This guy, now understanding how flat Earth was always being measured, made no difference to how flat Earth was always measured, does it? Doesn't make any difference. But with that, I will say, if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Be sure to join me on Patreon if you haven't done so already. However, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, maybe joined me on Patreon, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.